It's crazy. I don't even know. I'm not even sure where to begin. There's been there's been so much that's happened, Reagan. I don't even know. I mean, we have special session that's still going on. The Democrats, of course, love the fact that, they get their per diem every day. That's kind of funny.
Well,
Um,
no, they don't. Didn't you hear? They have to donate theirs. That's just, the Democrats are being
they can
inc
just
they
show up
can
and
keep
vote.
it. Yeah.
Just show up and vote. I
Well,
don't
they
know why
can't.
they're
They don't have
denying
enough votes,
they're
Brian.
denying quorum, Reagan. They're denying quorum.
I don't think they're necessarily. So when, stupid, stupid Olus is still defaulting to interim for me. I think it means I need to clear my browser cache.
Yeah.
But I was gonna pull up special session and see. Oh, they convene at 9 a.m. on Friday, August 29th. Not today. I'm back.
So crazy. I,
So when they had to meet. Oh, are they having to gavel the House through too? That's
yeah, yeah,
hilarious.
everybody does. Because even though the House, you know, went into sine die, they passed the resolution, but it doesn't. They're not actually gone. So
Yeah.
that'd be so
10
great if
a.m.
we need to make like one amendment or something in the Senate, so it has to go back through concurrence.
Oh man,
Would
can you
love nothing
imagine?
more than to force everybody
Amend
to have to come back.
suspend the rules, amend it on the floor, go vote again. Of course, Democrats would come back with 37. So,
Yeah,
frankly, my biggest frustration with that is that he probably knew he was going to change his party and he didn't mention it on our podcast and break the news here. That's annoying.
that is annoying.
He
Yeah.
should have done it. I don't know why he didn't.
And then he goes on, David Medina's podcast and blows up Right to Life. Like that was kind of screwed up.
I bet that Planned Parenthood loves that he announced he's pro-choice on a Jan 6 podcast.
I saw the press release from Right to Life too on it, and they were the
Oh yeah.
I could feel the anger kind of coming through the press.
Well, and so here's what I think, and I haven't talked to Representative Javity since the podcast episode, so I don't know for sure. I watched the interview. I suspect that he is so here, and I think I disagree with Organ Right to Life on this point, but I suspect he is still pro-life. He just doesn't wish to run under that banner because he knows it's unpopular in his new party, and he knows it will complicate his life more in his new party. And so it's easier to say that he is for choice, and he probably, has a good explanation for why he thinks that is. People usually do have an explanation. But I suspect that he is personally and wants to be pro-life, but it's too politically difficult for him to do it. And that's a shame because I think that he would make, even if he was going to continue to be a Democrat and vote other ways, that he would make a very good pro-life Democrat, and it would be good to have some pro-life Democrats. But he doesn't seem interested in doing that, which is too bad.
Well, that just tells you that I believe he was told you can't be pro-life and be in the Democratic Party.
I
I think
don't doubt that at all, Brian.
I
I
think
totally
whatever
agree.
advice he's getting, because we know his consultant, good friend of ours, David Collada, quit. Um, his race, so he's not running a Democrat race. I think you probably texted him too. I'm like, oh, you're doing Democrat races now, and I was giving him some crap for that, but he said, no, I am no longer working on his campaign, and I wonder, where does a Republican turn to find a Democrat consultant to take on his race? I don't know. This should be interesting to see how that will play out. But I
Probably
don't.
Dan Levy or Kevin Looper.
Looper for sure. Yeah, Levy probably does. He'll do anything. Of course, they might not because I heard Betsy Johnson's pretty upset at Javity. So I think that, and that's her neck of the woods up there. So I would find that to be. I think everybody. And here's my take on it, Reagan. I don't see really how he kind of works his way out of this. I mean he may, I mean with enough money that can solve a lot of problems. I don't know, he kind of says that he was told that the Democrats are going to fund his race. I don't know. I haven't heard Ben Bowman come out, Majority Leader Bowman come out and say he's, gonna fund Javity's race to the tune of whatever it takes for him to win. I don't know.
I'm told that Future PAC, so sort of representing Bowman, saying that they were going to ward off primary challengers. That does not mean they're going to fund the full general election, depending on where his polling is at. And I think that's where it's going to be dependent on, right? If it comes back and he's in striking distance or ahead, they will fund him, and if he's not, they won't. I think that's as easy as it is, and I think that's how it always is, how it always should be, honestly. Some people think there's extra loyalty here, but even an incumbent Republican, you think about what was it, Sherry Helt? She did not get infinite money. The caucus cut her off as soon as it was not a winnable race, right? You get hung out as soon as you can't win. And for the rest of the sake and for the sake of managing the whole thing, that's the right call. That's a hard call to make. So he may find that his new party is not particularly loyal either. But it's just because it's all just business at the end of the day.
But not necessarily true because the Democrats, if I've always been told from their leadership too, that if it is an incumbent, they will go down swinging with every dollar they got left.
They
So
have more money than we do, so maybe that is different for
and
them.
they have access to more money than we do. So
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen them pull out of a Democrat incumbent race in the general. I've never seen them pull out.
They stuck with Anthony Medina despite all of the massage
That's
parlor
what I'm saying.
situation.
All the way. And
Maybe you're right.
he wasn't even an incumbent, right? I mean,
Oh, that's true.
that was just an open seat, but I think that I just don't believe they'll just fund that thing. And also, if you look at their map, right? I mean, their map probably on the Democrat side, if you're the Democrats, you're looking at your roadmap going, Javi's probably a decent pickup for us. So now we got to defend it. We get a year to kind of repair his name ID a little bit, and they'll probably do some things that way and then try to come out, I would imagine, with an anti-Trump esque kind of message or something and try to, blow up. But I just don't know because you got that Republicans are now going to be galvanized against him. All the people that don't want a gas tax, which is an 80-20 issue, like he's become the face of the tax the hell out of people in Oregon. I'm like, literally, he's the reason why the gas tax passed. He is literally the reason the gas tax passed. It would not have passed the House if Cyrus Javity did not vote yes. Period.
100%.
And I think that if you're a non-affiliated voter and you care about your pocketbook, I don't think you're gonna say, well, but I think I want the maintenance guy to show up between Manzanita and Tillamook, when it's raining. And I'm like, and I've driven those roads. I was just in Seaside. Like I literally left Seaside the other day and drove home Wednesday. And all those roads suck. You can't, roads on the coast always suck because the road that you have shifting soils, you got tons of things that happen. It's a hard place to build good roads. It's constantly going to problem. You could throw billions at it and they would still shift and move because it's what they do on the coast. And then now he's anti-police with this stupid anti-masking kind of thing that he did with Representative Tom Anderson, not my boss, Senator Dick Anderson. I want to make sure that that's very clear. I almost want to put out a press release because we've gotten a few emails from people, and I'm like, it's not us.
You guys can put out a press release and you guys can partner up with Drazen on spelling of names. There's no E in Drazen. There's no E in Anderson.
Yeah, right.
Um,
I just don't. So anyway, my whole point is I don't really see how Jeff, and apparently he's getting a Democrat primary too, which I think they'll kind of expose him a little bit because I think at the end of the day, he's a fraud. I just don't know how. And then how do you just jump ship and all of a sudden you're putting out photos with Ron Wyden? I mean, really? I don't. And I recruited the guy, Reagan. I mean, I'm like, I spoke to him, 3 years ago or whatever it was, probably 4 years ago at this point when he first wanted to run as a Republican. And it's just like, I think this is my theory. And I talked to Vicky about this today. We were walking, and I just said, my theory is that he didn't get his way the last couple, he's been there 2 long sessions and he's struggled to just get his way on his bills, right? Getting them past the TLT bill. I mean, it took him 2 cycles to get the corporate practice and medicine bill passed. And in his mind, Cyrus believes he's right on policy. He believes his way is the right way. And the best way to pass those bills is in the majority. And I think that he just clearly doesn't care about left, right, or other. I don't think he cares. I don't Democrat, Republican. He doesn't care. He wants to pass his policies and he wants the best and easiest path to do it. And he thinks being a Democrat is going to get him there. And I think that it's going to be hard to get through the campaign.
I think also my opinion on the Javity race has evolved, obviously, as his changes have evolved. So, one, it was clear that in the last election, he was a vulnerable Republican. Now he hung on, but won by 0.14% or something like that. So, very close race against a candidate who was terrible. Um, so, if he got a better challenger, if Democrats brought a better challenger next time, they would have beat him. I think he knew all of that. So he thought, well, and if you can't beat him, join him, right? And he was worried about beating him. So there was that piece of it. Now, I think he would have had a chance to survive if he was like, look, I'm an independent Democrat. I'm an independent thinking Democrat. I'm still for lower, well, I guess you can't say he's still for lower taxes, but he's still for less regulation. He's still for smaller government. He's still pro-life. Like those things would have allowed him to keep a lot of potential Republican voters, and I think would have caused big problems for him because he can run on a lot of issues that he cares about, the health care and the
Yeah.
gas tax increase with Democrats, and then hold some of those voters. And so I think he was in a pretty good spot if he didn't change his values, but changed his party. Because he can argue that the party change is not what is the most important thing. It's that his values have mostly remained the same. Again, he would have been challenged on the tax stuff because his website said he was for cutting taxes. His video said he's for cutting taxes, not for raising taxes, and then he voted to raise taxes. Okay, so that was always going to be a vulnerability after he voted for the bill. Now that he's evolving in his positions, though, he's probably not going to hold those Republican voters anymore. And clearly, Oregon Right to Life will go out and say that he's pro-choice, that he either lied about being pro-life or is scared or whatever, and
Yeah.
that will cause the pro-life voters to flee. They won't vote for him again. So now I think it's a lot harder. Not that he can't win it again, but I think it'll be a really, really tough race now.
Yeah, it makes for it should make for some awkwardness on the House floor too during short session and stuff, which is I love awkwardness. I think it's a blast, but you and I both love that stuff. But I just, because now you got, a lot of people on the right that really feel betrayed. I don't know. It didn't come as a huge shock to me. So it's not like that, that it didn't really shock me just because I kind of felt like though, since the near the end of session, he was really kind of the TLT bill, he was really reaching on that one to really drive that thing through. And we know how transient lodging tax has been an issue. I don't think, he will find that the Democrat somehow he thinks that the Democrat caucus, and we can ask our guest who's coming on. We should ask her how she feels that they're going to welcome him into their caucus. So,
I did tell her we were only going to talk about Transportation County Commission, so let me text her real quick and see.
well, we'll hit her with it. She'll be fine. Annessa Hartman's going to join us soon, but I think we'll. But in the wake of all of that, because she voted no, and then they're bringing in somebody who voted yes, and so if you that's the context under which I think we can talk to her about it, which I think will be interesting because she probably got tons of pressure to vote yes. You know,
Also, his website still says he will advocate for local jobs, lower taxes.
he doesn't have a consultant. Like he's out there
I
doing
don't know. I think he updated his own website. It's different now. It has different colors.
he's got no
His
money either. So I don't know
his
that's the other thing, Reagan. Who gives him money? Like lobby wise and stuff.
it'll have to be Future PAC, and then probably the healthcare groups will still give in
Hospital
money.
Association.
Yeah, yeah. Hospitals, a lot of them. I think they'll all be there. Um, yeah, this is interesting though. Let's see if he's got Act Blue set up yet. No, he's still on Anodot for now, but it's with the old logo, so I'm sure
Oh,
that could be coming any day. Sure,
Anodot's
it's a
the worst. People that use Anodot are you're like still on dial-up.
I've seen, I mean, you see on Twitter all the updates that
I
WinRed gets. It's good technology now.
It makes me laugh. Well, while we wait, I got it. How about we hit it? There's a couple other, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about Charlie Kirk or not, but a couple other quick news stories. We can get into the Charlie Kirk stuff. Maybe we can end with that. Um, but I found it interesting in the wake of the Charlie Kirk stuff, I think everybody's kind of been inundated with. I mean, there's so much going on right now in the media with that stuff, but the Cliff Bentz not holding events for reporters is a little, or sorry, not he's not holding enough town halls for the reporters. So they were all reporting that he's, coming home and not doing any town halls. But, in the wake of everything, it kind of makes you look like Bentz is pretty smart on this one. I,
He is. He is. This reporters are all. Here's the thing. The question isn't why aren't you holding town halls? It's why aren't you letting the left protest you endlessly? And
well,
by the way, they're not just doing it to Republicans. In Oregon, they're doing it to Democrats. Ron Wyden had to cancel an event because lefty nut jobs were all saying that Israel sucks, and that he was too supportive of Israel. And so it's happening across the board. We're not in a place as a country, as we see with Charlie Kirk, to be able to hold all the kinds of public outdoor town halls. The people are unable, whether it's for mental health reasons or just unhealthy political rhetoric and dialogue or just unhealthy, I don't know what you call it, lack of people skills, whatever it is that's causing this evil, which is basically what it is evil, causing this evil display. It's not really just First Amendment protesting. It's obviously not when you bring a gun. It's not a First Amendment protest when you bring a gun and shoot somebody. It's really not a First Amendment protest when you go to shout people down and you're an enviro who breaks up an event and say you're killing people with without supporting everything that they support in Green New Deal. And when you're showing up and say more Jews need to be dead, like that's not First Amendment stuff. This is all evil stuff. And so when you've got that kind of evil out there, what's the point of holding a public event? There's not going to be any value because they don't listen when usually the politicians try to reason with these people, it never works because they're not reasonable. So why would you hold these endless amount of events so you can get protested? And then all it does is all the Democrat groups like it for is to generate headlines to make you look unpopular. And ultimately, it's typically a very small segment of that district. It's congressional district too. Until the Democrats try to redistrict Oregon again to try to pick up an extra seat with additional gerrymandering, that's a heavy Republican district. So it's not like he is unpopular. In fact, all those things will make him more popular. So it's not. What he's doing is what's the right thing to do, which is holding functional events where he can actually have conversations with people. But he's not. I applaud him. Don't have public events to let unreasonable people yell at you for a couple of hours. It doesn't make sense.
I agree 100%. And I've been to so many town halls. I mean, a lot of times town halls are meant for getting people's poll. Like you usually go out on town halls and you talk about what you're working on, right? And whether you're in Salem or in DC, and you kind of get some feedback. You're usually talking about the bills of the day, right? And then you also glean other things like what's going on in that community that you need to be made aware of. And so that dialogue is important in those town halls. I've seen a lot of good policy and ideas that led to good policy come out of town halls and the discussions. But if you have paid agitators, which is what they are, also known as paid assholes, but to just show up and be jerks for the sake of being jerks, there's no good that comes out of any of that stuff. The only thing that comes out of that is bad, bad, and Charlie Kirk bad. because that's what happens, and it's very difficult when we get down to that level of, guys, it's just that base level of like evil and hate that is just not helpful to anything. And well, why, if you're Cliff Benz, come home for August and you want to, do a thing in Pendleton and cruise down to, Madras, go to Klamath Falls and do a couple of town halls, you're just gonna get, people yelling and screaming at you. It's just not a lot of fun, you know. I saw that Mark Meek is doing a town hall this Saturday, so I almost want to drive over there and bring my sign for Mark Meek. You can
Brian.
still vote no. Join Annessa.
Yeah, yeah, that's what represent we have Representative Annessa Hartman here with us, and I think she's gonna be there, and she's just gonna be like, "Please vote no, please vote no."
She's like, no, I'm not going to be there.
She's like, "That's
I
his
saw
problem."
I saw that and I said, why? Why would you do that to yourself? But you know what? Good on him.
Yeah, I would be interested to see how that event would go, but I am not going to go to the effort to attend.
It
No.
is the first Saturday I have my daughter has no soccer games, my other daughter has no choir commitments, so we will be doing nothing but staying in our pajamas.
That's fantastic. I love
Yeah.
that. Representative, we had on last week Cyrus Javity to talk about why he voted yes on the transportation package or I don't know if people, so there's disagreement about whether or not it's a package, I suppose, in some ways. So maybe you have your viewpoint on whether or not it is a package also. But anyway, the 6 cent gas tax increase, the registration fee increase, the miles driven charge for EVs, those kinds of things to stabilize the agency and to fund maintenance supposedly. Although again, the governor had to write a letter to ODOT and tell them, hey, you have to spend this on maintenance. Don't worry, it's not in the bill, but you just definitely just do that. So there's some faith included in all of this. But what was your feeling? Like, where were you at with the original transportation package, and then what did you think about the new bill, and how did you end up going the way you did on the vote?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
No.
Look, Friday, we can do this all day long. We don't care.
That's true.
We could turn it into the Joe Rogan podcast.
um, so original bill is it from the 2025 long session?
Yeah,
The original one.
like
Yeah.
House Bill 2025, or one of the versions of it.
Well,
There was
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. So I was also a no, like kind of many others were on that particular, the larger like iteration that we received, like the second week of June. We received the talking points, the what were they calling it? The sort of the overview of what was going to be in it. But as we know, it is not real until we see how this bill language is written and what is actually in the bill. So when that came out, it was a little bit of a sticker shock. I think for my particular community, the road user charge was a huge no, because we originally were going to phase in regular gas cars down the road, not just EVs. It was like originally in my head, it was like EVs and hybrids, right? Get their fair share or pay their fair share. Totally get that. But then down the road in the initial bill, it was also going to include regular gas as well. So that was a huge no. And then the payroll tax has always been a big no for me, for my district particularly, because we don't have investments in transportation here. We are in that TriMet. My district is in the TriMet sort of district, and then some of my district is just a little bit out of it. So as you can imagine, we've had our strike with that. So and then when that whole thing went down in the last week, where we tried to come up with a final package, we were getting close, right? But then when we took the cities and counties out, as a previous city councilor, it was like we cannot be taking them out. And so up until the special session, I was pretty much, as long as that payroll tax is in there, I can't. My district is not something that we can support. And I will say, my impression was we were being called back for gap funding. Like, we are going to be called back to hold over the positions that you say we have to cut, instead of like looking at other things. Fine, okay. But in my, to me, we passed a transportation package. We did not pass a gap funding package to put us into 2027, right? That's what happened in 2015. we weren't able to pass something, so we continued conversations. We did something in 2017.
Well, and ultimately, I think that the bill that passed the House, it's still sitting in the Senate waiting on some health issues to, hopefully be resolved. Um, we don't wish any ill will to Senator Gorsuch or anything like that. We hope he comes back and is healthy and then votes no, because that would be the funniest thing of all time. But, and I say that speaking for me and Brian, not for our guest, but the bill that passed the House seems like, and this is the interesting thing to me, it seems like exactly what ODOT wanted to do. ODOT wanted funding without sideboards and no new projects to do. And that is ultimately what happened in this bill. And the whole time through the long session, it seemed like the legislature was pushing hard to try and get something that wasn't that because there was more that they wanted to do, wanted to go further modernizing transportation, wanted to finish the projects from 2017 that didn't get finished. There was all kinds of other things. Some of them were wanting to do more electrification of cars. Some of them were trying to reduce lanes and not do, the we don't need more roads where we're going caucus. Where we're going, we don't need roads. That's the Back to the Future quote. I got mixed up there. So, but well,
And the transfer tax. We have the transfer tax as well.
but yes, and the transfer tax. But the governor, sort of representing ODOT, called a special session to put forward a bill that was exactly what ODOT wanted, and that was when they have a greater ability to control the special session, the bill, the agenda, all that stuff. And so I think that whole strategy is super interesting. Now, I don't know, and like you said, at the end of the session, they brought forward this bill that was 3 cents, and they eliminated the 50-30-20 split from that 3 cents, which is what you're talking about. And that's why all the local governments came out opposed and tried to kill that bill at the end. And it did die. But a lot of people think that was, strategic brilliance from the governor to get everyone on board with the new 6 cents. At least I've heard that, at least on the Republican side. I think that's a tinfoil hat thing. I don't think they knew what they were doing. I think they struggled through this entire process. I think the governor showed up late because there were some questions about how leadership had handled the prior 5 months of bill work and all that stuff. So I just think it's interesting that the final bill that got passed is more of what ODOT wanted than what the legislature wanted. And I think that I don't know what the ramifications are that long term for transportation and if we're going to do something in short session, if people are going to try again in 27 for more stuff. I don't think there's going to be the will for that, but who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I know that there have been conversations, right, about mega projects or finishing the projects that were promised, right? I mean, I look out my balcony here and I can see Abernathy. So it's not, it's a challenging topic because yes, we need to continue finishing that project that is already in the middle of construction. Let's finish it. But when we start to talk about the I-5 corridor, which was very important to 2017, and that's a whole other conversation, but that project still very much feels a few years out. And when we are prioritizing budgeting hundreds of millions of dollars to prepare for that project instead of putting that money into what we need right now, critical services, that's where I start to have an issue, right? It's like that project should have been started a long time ago, but it hasn't, and that's fine. But if I can't remember what the number was, but the amount that we are setting aside for consultant fees, I was like, what are we consulting on right now? Because right now it feels like we're in an emergency. Let's focus on what is present and then talk about in a couple years from now. But that is not the thinking that I have seen.
Well, the Abernathy Bridge, if there's one reason alone to vote no, you could look out your window and see I've been driving, I grew up over in Gresham in that area, and that Abernathy Bridge, and I've been up and down, it's been under construction forever, and it looks the same. Like I don't see anything different I'm like, do they just park the cranes out there to make it look like they're doing something? And I think that's just all that frustration just boils up, especially if you drive on 205. I mean, the frustration
Yeah.
of getting around I-205 and around Portland now, especially compared to even, 20, 25 years ago, because all the growth has happened out that way.
Right.
Right. And so, because Portland doesn't have anywhere else to grow, right? I mean, there's a border to our north and we got nowhere else to go. So everybody's moving out that way, but there's no increased capacity. And it just feels like there's no sense of urgency to get any of that stuff done. Same with like the Rose Quarter project. I mean, that is to me, I mean, we've wasted hundreds of millions of dollars and gotten no I mean, that's the part that just kills me is we've gotten nowhere. And
Yeah,
without having that oversight with the agency, I think amongst your party as well as I know with ours, I mean, the apprehension of just saying, here's another blank check, so let's see what happens. Like, in this whole, well, what
right,
else are we going to do? It's kind of like, no, what we do is we say it's not good enough,
right.
which
That
I
was
think
I
what we
mean,
did in
like,
2025, right at the end of session is like, this
right,
is not the bill, you know?
right. I think I said it in my floor speech was like, when the audit came out and they couldn't account for the 120 something $1 million, how am I supposed to go back to my community and say, we're going to increase the X, Y, and Z for you? And like some people, and this frustrates me. Like some people think like, oh, it's only going to be what, $500 a year. Like to someone who like has to literally live paycheck to paycheck or barely live paycheck, like $500 divided by 12 is a lot for some people. And I remember those days where it was tough. But then like, how am I supposed to go back and say, hey, they couldn't find this, but we're going to give them more money? And I shared this story with a couple other people, but I work in a nonprofit, and I was like, what happens to nonprofits when they don't meet their deliverables, or let's say they couldn't get all the money out that they were awarded, or they missed like by a small margin. We get our money reduced. We don't get the same amount, and so it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna think that way, and I'm gonna treat our agencies the same way. Like that feels right. Like you can't
Yeah.
manage the money you have right now, like. And so it just didn't sit well with me. And as you guys know, like my district particularly has been at the center of these transportation conversations forever, for a very long time. And so in my head, I was like, all right, the way that it ended, or the way that the whole tolling conversation happened at the end of last short session, long session, my first term, I was like, the number one thing leadership has to do is get Clackamas County Caucus on board. You get Clackamas County Caucus on board, then you should be okay. That didn't happen.
I would think, because I mean, Clackamas County is the epicenter of kind of everything. It's really of Oregon. If you think about Oregon, because you got rural,
Mm-hmm.
you got urban, you have highways, you have, everything really in Clackamas County. And I always think, so goes Clackamas County, so goes the state. And I think it's really a bellwether county to see where things are we moving a
Mm-hmm.
little more right of center? Are we moving a little more left of center? Clackamas County seems to be that county that I look at to really give me a sense of what's the political fever of the state right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is. And there's been a lot of good things, especially with transportation, because it's just and you have Christine Drazen on one end of Clackamas County and you on the other end of Clackamas County, right? So you got D's and R's, on both sides of the political spectrum
Different
too.
kind of D's too.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
forget you got Mark Gamba and you got Daniel Wynn. So you got all kinds.
that's true. I
And
forgot about
Is
Gamba.
is that I was gonna say, is that the spectrum from Gamba to Win?
like Gamba to Drazen, I think is a good spectrum
It
for the
used to
state of
include James
Oregon.
Heeb too, which is
Yeah.
which is something.
Yeah.
Yes. So sort of to that point, um, I think that, sorry, I'm responding to a text message, which is bad, but it was my wife, so
Good job.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that. You announced that you are not going to seek re-election, and to the legislature, you are going to seek a seat on the county commission. Is there somebody that is? I didn't look this up. Is there somebody that's retiring, or are you challenging an incumbent? I didn't look.
So it is actually the individual, Melissa Fireside, who lost her seat because she went to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. So someone got appointed to that seat. Her name
that's
is
right.
Diana Helm. She was, I believe, she was a previous mayor, previous mayor of Damascus, I think. And so I had let her know, I was like, I am not challenging you. Like, this is not like, I have a relationship with Paul Savis. I have a relationship with Ben West. They both have been very supportive and instrumental in work in separate spaces like mental health care and substance use and then transportation. And I would never dream to try and challenge those two. And so I was like, I hope you know that it's not you. So it is seat 4 is the number. And so
Okay.
they are, it is in the middle of what would have been a 4-year term. So technically it would be for 2 years and then run again
Oh
in
man.
2 years for a 4. Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it, right? But it would be, for 2. And then if I won, then run again in 2 more years. And then it would be a 4-year term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And
But
so
yes,
you're on, that's the ballot is it's Savas running again, Ben West running again, and then that fourth seat.
the fourth seat. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
quite sure if that person is running or
Yeah.
who else
Okay.
is, but yeah.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
got to think for numbers too. So it's like from 40 to 4 sounds really nice to me. And
Yeah.
4 was my basketball number growing up, so it felt right.
And then I updated the candidate tracker
That
today
was my
because
number
filing
too.
opened. And so we'll see if Charles Gallia, who you had defeated once before in the primary, had
He
lost
has filed.
once to Kennemer. He had lost once before
He's lost
to
everywhere.
Andy to Alan Olson as well. So maybe this is his opportunity, his chance.
He
We'll see.
lost the number 2 pencil Olson. Oh boy.
Yes, I am aware. I know that there's someone else that I'm familiar with. It's just a new person who's reached out also, and I haven't really responded yet. I'm taking this week kind of slowly, just given
That's smart.
how I knew this was coming. I actually, the funny thing is though, I was going to announce on Friday, and then another announcement happened. And I was like, well, that feels weird to do it at this stage. Like, maybe this isn't the right time. Let me give him his space, and then we'll just do it next week.
And you're not announcing a party change. You are staying Democrat.
No,
Okay.
as of right now, have I thought
Now,
about as I've thought about going independent for sure, but as of right now, I'm not doing that.
don't do that. The Independent Party of Oregon sucks. They're the
Not
worst of all
affiliated.
time.
Can I be
Yeah,
not affiliated?
non-affiliated. Yes. Yeah. Now I have to do it.
This.
Now every political guest we have to ask because Javity didn't announce his party change until right after our podcast. I got to ask him, are you planning on changing your party anytime soon? It's up. I just have to add it to the repertoire now.
You run
I've
those.
damaged.
Clackamas is all non-affiliated, and then the top 2 move on to the
Yeah.
general, right? So unless you can get 50.1% in the primary, then the top 2 would just move on to the general. So
Right.
it's pretty non-affiliated-esque,
Which
and
I recommend, by the way, winning in May if you can. Totally awesome.
I've thought about
Makes
that
November
too.
easy.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, could I have a summer?
you could, yeah, because you
I
wouldn't
could have
even
a summer.
it'd be weird to win in May because then you're not seated for like 7 months too. It's like,
Yeah.
you have to like sit around and like wait for 7 months for them to actually.
Maybe, yeah, have like a little bit of a life for a minute. No.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Go run hard
Yeah.
early, I think, which is what you're doing clearly by announcing so soon, and I think probably trying to clear the field a little bit, right? To let people know, hey, I'm gonna go after this, jumpstart your fundraising, all the stuff.
Yeah, I would say it was actually more driven by not that I will have any control over who decides to run, Republican or Democrat. I really wanted someone to take the time to figure it out because I know that 4 years ago it was around in September when I started thinking about it. It took me about a month to decide, just to get like is this going to work for my family? Like all of the things. This is a big commitment, and it's a lot. And so my hope was to not give someone like a week, right? I think there was a lot of people that were like, oh, you could have waited until after short session. I was like, yeah, I could have, but
Yuck.
that seems awful. And also really disingenuous, or wait until the end of the year and raise all this money as a representative and like, oh, sorry guys. Like I wasn't going to do that. But
I think that's really that's really kind of you, honestly. Because I think that annoys people. There's no way to stop it, but it annoys the crap out of people. I'm sure it annoys the lobby. I'm sure it annoys party leaders. Now Ben has lots of time to go recruit for your seat if he doesn't like who's already filed. He should leave Charles there, by the way. I think amazing candidate. You can decide if I'm being sarcastic or not. He can decide. It's up to him now. But I think that is it's just straightforward. I like it when people announce their plans. I think it helps people understand what the actual state of things are instead of having to do this weird tap dance where it's like, well, I see it all the time in national politics. If this person doesn't run, then I'm getting in.
Yeah.
But I like this person and I'm going to defer to them and I think all of that is kind of silly. So props to you for just going for it.
Thanks.
Did you
appreciate that.
believe I mean, I'm gonna assume the answer is yes to this, but I would have maybe expand on the rationale, but your no vote and running for commissioner, because I think some people are probably like trying to put the 2 and 2 together, right? I mean, I think
Sure.
some people think Javity was already planning on becoming a Democrat, so he was going to vote yes and had a deal with Bowman to fund his race. So if he votes yes, they'd fund his race.
Oh.
Oh.
These
Spicy,
were all
Brian.
just I'm making up assumptions. So, these are things
Hold
that
on.
I
I'm
would
gonna
have
call
asked
Ben and I'd
Gravity if
see
I
if
would
I
have
can get him
known.
to confirm on the
No,
line here real quick.
no, it's not.
But these are questions I would have asked him if he would have came on and told us he was going to be a Democrat. Like, what did you? So I assumed you looked at this commissioner seat. And by the way, Ben West is one of my really good friends, and he loves you and thinks the world of you, and he would never help us beat you in the state rep race. So I think this is better for him because now you can join him on the commission. Um, we
See, this is what we need. We need more nonpartisanship. Maybe I won't come out
yeah.
publicly, but we'll support each other behind the closed doors.
So I guess that was my question is
Yeah.
was like how much of the no vote maybe played in your political rationale for running?
None at all.
Okay.
I was pretty fed up by that point. I think that there's like personal things, right? My kids are going to be going into high school and middle school, and I'm a single parent. Like, so there's like personal stuff. I'd been considering not running again, just in general. Just like
Oh, really? Wow.
this is really like, just like, can I handle this last long session I have shared with people really broke me in many different ways around the way that we make decisions, the way that things are negotiated. I just felt really icky being a part of a system that prioritized, am I going to win the next election over, making good choices, right? And like, to a certain extent, I can get it until we all agree not to like hate on each other in campaign time, or we agree to work together and publicly say, that we are more moderate or more like sort of together on things than the news likes to pick up, then it's just never going to change. And I think there are some of us who are trying, I think there's like a good handful, both Republicans and Democrats, are trying to create somewhat of like a mod caucus, if you will, or just like, how can we work together? Where it was like, I'm not going to say anything on the floor. I would support you, but I'm going to have to vote no. Like, but that, to me, that feels, yeah. So with all that being said, like, I, ended the long session really like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, what are we going to do? And so I had good conversations with my family, and I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to run again, and take a break, not run for anything else. And then when the special session was announced, we had all given our availability. I was supposed to be gone that weekend. I had plans for my kids. We had a lot of personal stuff going on, and I'm like, we're leaving. We're going to the water park and right before school. And I was pretty much like, it would be really nuclear if you didn't show up, and, made to feel pretty awful if I wasn't going to be there, even though I communicated I wasn't going to be there ahead of time. And so I had to cancel my plans to be there. And I told them, I said, that's fine, but I'm still voting no. Like, I've been no from the very beginning. Do you really want that?
Yeah.
And I hadn't at this point, because I had kind of gone zero dark 30 to be like off social media. I hadn't realized that Cyrus was really out there hitting the pavement like, I'm going to vote yes. And I very much respect him for like actually responding to people on like Facebook and Instagram. Like, a lot of us don't do that, but he engaged to the best of his ability. So I really didn't know how strong that was. Obviously there's assumptions that it was like Mannix or Javy or people that we could that have expressed support before. But I went into that weekend knowing that I had to be there during a rough time during my personal life. And it was like, well, I'm going to be me then. You're going to have to deal with the Clackamas, Annessa. Sorry. And so they all knew that going in. And there were discussions around, okay, if let's say my good friend Representative Falwin wasn't able to come in, I would have had to probably been a strong talking to. Like, what do you want? What do you want? And so, but she did, and I, maintained my position. And I have said, like, that was really intimidating. I've taken a lot of like tough votes before, but to feel, it was like palpable. It was like to feel the look and like, ah. But honestly, like, from the conversations I had, like I said, like top to bottom, like electeds down to like my neighbors, it's just that everyone wanted. Like, it just didn't feel right for me in my district to vote yes, even,
it's got to be a 90-10 vote in your district, if not better.
The conversations I've had too with people who were like, oh, why don't you want to fund transportation, or maybe some union members that have spoken to me privately. I mean, they've admitted that there's mismanagement and spending. And I have told them it's not that I don't want to invest in transportation. I just want to do it the right way.
Well,
Like
and
I want to do it.
I saw a really good piece of testimony, and it happened to be from one of Representative Breeze Iverson's commissioners. But he basically said his submitted testimony. He's a commissioner, so his county benefits from the 50-30-20 split, obviously. But he said the measures that are in there that are under the section called accountability is stuff I would have assumed we're already doing and already
Right.
should be doing. That
Right.
doesn't like increased accountability, which is what we really need. None of that is cutting it, I think, for most average people. People are like, wait, they don't submit to a regular audit. They don't have a major projects team when we spend a certain amount of money. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have the ability for the governor to hire and fire, which, by the way, that one is the silliest one of all because that flip flops back and forth all the time based on who the
Mm-hmm.
governor is and who the legislature is. Like it used to be the governor hired and fired, and then for accountability we took it away from her. Now to bring not from Governor Kotek, but we took it away from previous governors
Yeah.
under the guise of accountability, and now we're bringing the power back under the guise of accountability. Like that
Right.
one is just the most interesting one of all. So I think that that is also a point that you made, which is basically like the accountability needs to be so much beefier. And I don't know if you listened to our previous episode, but I did have a long diatribe about some people who stood up and said, if you've got ideas for accountability, let's hear them. But I'm like, people had ideas for accountability. They didn't let it in the bill. That's
Yeah.
bottom line. So I understand where that's coming from, but it's a very frustrating thing to hear when I'm sure you had ideas for accountability and I know others had ideas for accountability.
Yeah.
And for political reasons, usually those things, or sometimes logistics or cost, those things don't appear in the bill. But like, it's not like there wasn't a list of ideas that people
Right.
were bringing forward. It's not like there was no engagement on that front. It's not like we showed up the day of special session. We're like, oh, how are we going to hold ODOT accountable?
Right.
Nope.
Well, that was my
People were
other
thinking
issue
about
was
this.
like I in my head it was like we had one public hearing, which was to the LC. We weren't even in session, and then we had the other one, right? But it's like, why did it? It's like 4002. I thought that like we had meetings for 4002 back in the short session, like leading up, like every single week. Like it was really robust public engagement, right? Like this felt like the time to do that. And we didn't do that. And I think through those conversations was like, we had a accountability committee or an oversight committee on mega projects.
Yeah.
We had that from 2017. Look where that got us.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh
Very
yeah,
hard.
another committee. Is that really going to do what we want it to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
But back to your like just to like close up the idea of the Clackamas Commission thing. It had always been a thought of mine to do that at some point in my life. I like local politics. I like being home and like seeing like working with the people. But I think from that no vote and like people being like, oh, it's just because she's from Clackamas. Oh, it's just I was and I in my head it was just sort of an aha moment. Honestly, I was driving home and I was like, I could be exactly who I want to be and not feel bad about it, and represent the county that I love and like be home and do the same thing to a certain extent, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously, different, but and be able to I know how the building works. I know the people and Clackamas is always left out of these conversations. So that it was really I don't want to say it was a rash decision. It was always in my head to do that in the future years, but it definitely was like, you know what? I can just be the rebel rouser that I have been, but at home. And not have to deal with party politics. That was my other
Yeah, I think, county commissioner is the best job by the way, it's the best job in politics.
thing.
It really is because you're dealing with, potholes, right? You're dealing with local, I mean, on the state level, you're dealing with these macro budgets and macro agencies, right? And it's all kind of macro driven down to the ground level where the commissioner, you're literally implementing
Yeah.
sort of stuff. You're making things happen. Like every day you get up and you're trying to make your county better. And I think county commissioner, and also you get paid three times as much, which is nice too. But because it's a full-time job, right? If it's like every
Yeah.
day you get up and go to the office and you go be a commissioner, right? So you have real responsibility and real things that you got to do on an everyday basis. And it is a way better. My good friend Larry George always told me that the best job in politics is county commissioner. Like you get to run the county, like you are in
Mm-hmm.
charge. And so much money and services flow through the county. So you're dealing with all of I mean, the fight that Ben has had and Paul too and the rest of them on the homeless issue, the spillover from Portland.
Hmm.
You guys trying to deal with keeping that stuff out of Clackamas County because that's not what you guys want. You don't want to have that spillover effect, but also trying to get the services to people and like those are real
Right.
problems and that you got to deal with. And I think we've had a decent number of county commissioners on the episodes here over the years and including Ben, but those issues are, they're going to create different problems for you than like the level of stuff you have to deal with the legislature, but at least you feel like I think a little stronger impact to people because you feel like you
Yeah.
get to touch them more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's like there's so much of like the talking points that we get. I think it's probably the case for both caucuses is that a lot of like what's happening nationally, like it's the expectation to respond, and then it sort of distracts from real life kitchen
Yeah.
table problems that being either in the city council or county is like we get to create programs to help with that spillover or get to help people get into permanent supportive housing or those things we get to do right now, not just use it as a talking point. And so I think that was the other thing that excites me about that.
We don't get talking points on Trump. We're actually okay on our side that he won.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think one thing that's interesting and that is a trend right now is you see in Congress too. I mean, people who were considered, and I'm not necessarily calling you a rising star, but I think that that label
You
may
can
have been
do that. It's
attributed to you
oh,
fine.
geez,
occasionally,
Megan.
at least on your side.
Rising star.
Those people that, as they get higher up the political food chain, so to speak, go, "Oh, this sucks," and they get out because they're just like, "I don't want this." And you saw, I mean, the most recent example was a Congressman, Marcus Luttrell from Texas, who was considered somebody who's really talented and made the leap from the private sector into politics and did a really good job. He's just like, "Dude, I'm out. It's ugly out there," and they don't want to do it, and it's because politics is really rough. And the higher you go up, I mean, the legislature is pretty brutal. It's gotten brutaler as of late. I think that's a lot what you were talking about like how things come together, how packages get negotiated, how much control is exercised either externally or by leadership. All that stuff has gotten a lot worse in the
Yeah.
last 10, 15 years. And so Congress is like the worst version of that. I think the US Senate is still like somewhat functional, but it is getting worse. And like US House is like disaster zone. And I think same in Oregon. The Senate is somewhat functional and there's the opportunity for discussing, but the Senate's as bad as it's ever been. And I mean, I think there's a lot of good people in the House of Representatives that are trying to make things work, but they are alone are not enough to overcome a lot of the other pressures on the outside. Right now, I think a lot of those pressures are actually getting close to being weaker than they've ever been. A lot of the outside groups, both on the Republican and Democratic side, are not as strong as they have been in the past too. So I think that there's a potential for that to break, but I don't think it's happened yet. And then local politics is getting uglier, but it's still kind of the most functional version of politics, probably for most people, the most bearable in a lot of ways. So I think that is, I think you're, for better or for worse, you're following a bit of a trend that I'm seeing at least out there.
Well, they're not going to get rid of me that fast. I'm sorry. I'm still going to be around.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
What?
I think to your point, like the idea that there's like, both parties are sort of like clinging on to this whole like big tent thing, right? Like there's like, okay, Democrats have a big tent. I'm assuming that Republicans maybe say something similar in the fact that we're not all the same. But I think for the Democrats, like I don't have to be here. I didn't have dreams of being a representative. I have dreams of being in politics. Like I've told Ben this. I was like 6 years ago, I had no idea who any of you were. I had no idea who Representative Meek was. I had no idea. And so I'm often like that's who I'm thinking about and trying to engage in this work. And that is not the same for people who had dreams of being, they are the ones who want to follow in the footsteps of previous governors and previous representatives. And that's great. Like, right. Like those are their goals in life. But I'm still worried about, my downstairs neighbor who can't get access to, an electric wheelchair because their insurance doesn't cover it anymore. Like those are those like home things that I can't, like I want to work on, and it's not that's not always like reciprocated up there. And so I often was like, oh, why didn't you, like I've had certain very important people call and like I didn't call back. And I like, like what? You didn't? And I'm like, I don't have anything to say. Like I
Yeah.
don't like I'm just gonna get yelled at because I'm voting a certain way or I'm pushing up against I don't have anything to say to you. And so that's the thing, is like I don't care if I don't like if I piss off someone, because if it's the right thing to do for my community, then it's the right thing to do. But that it there are some, I feel my opinion is like it's for me, I'm always like constituents then caucus, and others are probably some caucus and then constituents, which is weird for me.
I was with a state representative, and I won't say who it was, but I was with him this week, and he showed me his cell phone. He wasn't there for the vote, but he showed me his cell phone. It was like Kotek, Fahey, Drazen, like all these, and they were not listened to messages because
Yeah.
he made up his mind, and that's where it was. Like you weren't going to change it, and I think you were the same. You made up your mind, and having a principled stand is tough in today's politics, especially when you're the one vote.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing how important your vote usually most of the time, right, is throwaway in the
Yeah.
legislature, except for times like these when you're the one vote. And
Yeah.
Vicky told the
Did
story.
not anticipate that this
Yeah.
would be like this either, to be honest with you.
Well, and then Vicky she said the story on that Friday. I don't know. She doesn't, we have to have her come on and talk about it a little bit. But on Friday, like she was coming in because they weren't, there wasn't a desire to deny quorum on this thing or anything from Republicans. But, Vicky was like, well, I'm not going to be the 40th to show up. Like it's okay to be the 43rd to show up or the 48th to
Mm-hmm.
show up, but you don't want to be Cyrus Javity because he's taking a lot of heat for being the yes vote that passed the bill, right? So just like I think Mark Meek's going to take a lot of heat, no matter what, he's going to take a lot of heat in his district for being a yes vote, and that's just the reality. It doesn't. I mean, Mark's got broad shoulders; he can take it, and I think there were some things that he wanted, but he was we'll see. I mean, he's still got what 5 days to change his vote, but we'll see after Saturday. But I think sometimes you have to realize those political things, and I remember the governor calling, or Vicky said the governor called her and was like, you need to get in there and we need to get this going, and she's like, I'm not going in. I didn't sign up, so it was kind of funny, but I think it's hilarious in these very awkward, tight spaces when there's no room for failure. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny to see how people are kind of freaking out and what they got to do to make it happen. So I applaud you for being a no and staying true to your principles. I'll be honest with you, when you ran in 22, of course, I was running races for, the representative. I'm sure we had you beat the whole time. You ended up pulling that thing out against
Underestimation.
Adam Baker by 165 votes. I'm still pretty pissed about it.
181.
180. All right, 181.
I'll never forget that number.
I'm sure you won't. But I will say that I've been pleasantly surprised by your ability to vote your conscience in your district and to be more of a moderate than I even thought you were, coming from my level of your history and stuff that I was aware of. I mean, you're even from California, and that makes it worse. But um,
Offended.
just kidding. But I
Wasn't my
think
choice. I can't help where my parents took me.
I know you didn't have a choice, but I just applaud you for sticking to your guns, because you really have moderated a lot of bills that never even made it to the floor. A lot of times you were, the work that you do in that legislature, it's not the up down on the floor. It's all
Yeah.
the work before a bill ever gets there.
Yeah.
And that's really what we have to take to heart. And I wish you luck on the commission race. I only do Deschutes County
Appreciate that.
commission races and stuff, so I won't be in Clackamas County, so I won't do anything against you. Plus,
I can
plus Ben
appreciate
said he
that.
won't. I'll help Ben. I got to go to his fundraiser
Yeah.
Tuesday night is his kickoff, so I have to go and give him money.
I
So,
make no promises. If somebody shows up with a giant bag of money, I'm gonna consider it. I'm kidding.
yeah,
I'm kidding.
yeah. Well, thanks for your time. I think
Yeah.
appreciate you hopping on and kind of talking transportation and your run for commissioner. And we'd love to have you back on, and especially as things heat up and stuff, it'd be fun to have some more conversations about Clackamas County. So
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I was very pleased to see that my gavel didn't get taken away. So we're so far so good.
Which means they're still going to try to talk you into switching back to running. There's still time.
I don't know.
Ben,
I have not heard from pretty much
Ben,
anyone.
Ben wants
So
to see how recruiting goes first, and then he'll talk to you
yeah.
again. Which, by the way, that's a thing that's new this year. The incumbents, if you're an incumbent running for reelection, you have to file a week before.
I saw that.
So no
Yeah.
more last minute switcheroos. So we'll see how that plays out this year. But that's supposedly filing's opened, and then it closes like March 3rd for incumbents, and then March
Yeah.
10th for everybody else. So that'll be interesting to watch that piece of it.
We will be in session, so no plans on changing.
yeah,
Terrible, terrible timing. Voters'
Yeah.
pamphlets should not be due a week after short session. That is wrong, and that is an
Yep.
injustice, and it needs to be fixed, and we should fix it this short session.
yes, yes,
So,
Tobias Reed. Yes, Tobias. I know you're listening. We need to
We'll
switch
think
our
about.
primary date. I hate our primary date.
oh, it's
Yeah.
horrible, but that's going to be a lot harder to do, but I agree.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you. Appreciate
See
your
ya.
time.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Okay, she's gone, I think. Now we can talk bad about her. I'm just kidding.
Look, she's not. I don't want people to misunderstand. I'm sure we disagree on all kinds of issues, but I think that it's very clear that she's one of a few that made a concerted effort to listen and to accept ideas and feedback from Republicans, and that is not the norm anymore. So
Yeah.
I think that has to be called out as a positive thing. And I get and then voting no on a tax. I mean, when's the last time a Democrat did that?
Yeah.
So
I don't
I
know who's
think
going to run for
that's
commissioner. I mean, on the Republican side for that seat, or if the lady that's going to run and runs again. I have no idea. I don't really get involved in that. I just let Ben West tell me what we need to do in Clackamas County, right? Because he's just got a pulse on it. But she seems like she's going to make a good commissioner. I mean, like you just said, that idea that she's there to listen and she kind of comes to, and she obviously has the metal to stick her guns because, I can't imagine the amount of intensity push that she was getting to be a yes on that bill because it must have just been pretty intense for her. And she's standing up to your own party's harder than standing up to the other party.
whew.
It's really hard to stand up to your own party and also still remain friends, right? I mean, I think it sounds like she's fine with everybody there, right? I would imagine that they're all because she had a real reason why she wanted to vote no and she stuck to it. And, we have to commend people when they do that sort of stuff, even in the face of such horrible, because think about if we were in the majority. Would Republicans act in kind? I don't know. Goes to that whole thing that we talked about as far as having debate over ideas. It shouldn't have so much visceralness to it. It should be debate of ideas. And she's on board with us, Reagan. We all love transportation. Republicans want a robust transportation grid. There's better ways to do it, and this was not the good way to do it. That's what I would say on it. And I think she agreed.
Yep, I think
Putting
that's
words in her
a
mouth.
great
So
summary. So, well, look at this. We got both sides of the debate on transportation.
yeah.
So hopefully we can continue to be. I don't want to be like I was. It's not. I was telling some people it's like I think we're turning into Meet the Press for the legislature. Let's not be Meet the Press though, because Meet the Press is old and lame. We're like the legislative water cooler. That's what I want to be. People come and go, "Holy cow! Did you see that vote? Like that was rough. Here's what I thought," and all that stuff. I think if we can be the water cooler for some of this stuff, I think that'll be.
And the behind the
I think that's pretty
scenes, it was
good.
good to kind of hear her behind the
Yeah.
scenes on their side of things, like, getting their Donald Trump talking points, which I think we're going to see a lot of that in the short session because they're just going to blast the big, beautiful bill and just say Trump, 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 right? It's all Trump's fault
Yeah.
instead of it being illegal aliens and us just overspending like drunken sailors, out for one night from being in sea for 6 months. So, I mean, that's been the Oregon way is just spend, spend, and then tax more and spend, and tax more. And at some point, we're going to have to tighten our belts. And that day the reckoning is coming
Well,
hard.
and this is the prediction game now. So you get to are the Democrats going to call a special session to disconnect from the federal tax code? to save $400 million in the biennium. What do you think? Are they going to do it?
Yeah, they'll try. I think they're going to play around, but I don't know. Okay, so I get, you know
I
what I mean? Like I was like, okay, if they,
Ultimately, it's another vote that if Democrats take, they have to vote to raise taxes essentially. And I'm not sure. Now, I'm not sure if it's a 36, if it's a three-fifths vote or not to do
mm,
the disconnect. I kind of think it's probably not. But maybe it is because it raises revenue. So I don't know. But LC's not super consistent on that. So we'd have to see that. If it's a three-fifths, I don't think they got the votes because they got a bunch of people that's got to run on that, and they're going to have to run on raising taxes basically on businesses. And even if they keep the over no tax on tips and overtime, right? It's still a devastating hit to the budget. So ultimately, I think they're going to find they can't do it for this tax year. I think they will do it in short for the following
sure.
tax year, and they might be able to put together the votes for that, but it'll have to be part of a bigger package. But ultimately, I think no special session because this one has been such a disaster. That's the first thing people are going to say is, so how is this going to be any less disastrous than the last special session you just called, which has now been going on for almost 3 weeks, and they
Yeah.
still haven't voted. They still won't vote until next week, supposedly. We have not heard any update on Senator Gorsuch's how he's doing.
No,
So
I've heard that he's doing better, so I'm assuming he shows up. I mean, he doesn't have to come on the floor until right at time of voting, right? So they'll do a call of the House and then or the call of the Senate and then have him
right,
then he can, come down from his office or whatever and do the roll call vote in the Senate and leave, right? So I'm sure they'll probably try to do something like that. And it is wild to me that you just sit around for 2 weeks and pay everybody $10,000 a day is going out the door and you're not doing this vote. And it just goes to show you that this is not a bill anybody really wants, and I think the governor, she's going to have to own this one. I mean, it's been her from the get-go on this special session. I think even the leadership's like, this is all the governor. And Cotec and the unions are gonna just push, 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 and we'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, the reckoning is really gonna come in 26 when we do elections a year from now. So we'll see where all this stuff plays out. Do people forget about it? Is there something else going on in the world that matters most? More? Is it is cost of living? Has it gone down? Do interest rates take a dump? I mean, there's so many unknown factors. It's hard to say. But the snapshot in time would tell me that Democrats, I think, got this one wrong on this bill, and I don't know if it will cost them because that's always a calculated risk, right? I mean, everything is like, will it cost them? I mean, we're not doing a special session right before the vote. Hopefully, we did one Labor Day next year would be great. If they could line that one up, that would be wonderful. So we'll see what happens. Lots of stuff coming. Candidate trackers filling up, dramatically, Reagan. We had filing opening and John Lively retiring. We got lots of stuff to talk about. So I think we'll hit that next week, right?
more coming soon. Yes, and hopefully more people will file. And I'll probably send a bunch of text messages out to Republican incumbents I know and see if they're gonna tell me what their plans are, so I can add them to the tracker.
Make sure. Yeah, I mean, and then the rumor mill out there right now is that we got leadership stuff next week. We got Senator Bonham stepping down on Monday. A new leader is going to emerge out of the Senate. We have special session Wednesday, and then I'm hearing that Senator Bonham got a job in the Trump administration.
Wow.
So the rumor mill is telling me that he's out of here. He's gonna go work for Lori Chavez Dreamer or one of them agencies over there, and he's gonna step down and out of his state senate seat because you can't do that. So that means we got an appointment process. Now, what does Helfrich do? What does Drazen do? Like that's are there other people that get appointed? Who throws their hat into that?
Former governor candidate Stan
Yeah.
Pulliam, I hear,
Yeah.
could potentially be interested in that. I don't know if that's a good idea for him or not, but it might happen.
Didn't work out last time. He went for Helfrich's seat on an appointment. Remember in 2018, he
So,
tried to get
and
appointed.
he's run a whole governor's race and Oppo reports and all that. So we'll see. There's a lot. There's a ton of interesting stuff on the Republican side of the aisle. I think there's probably more retirements looming on the Democratic side of the aisle after a pretty rough session. I think that causes more people to want to retire. So yeah, lots coming.
This period between now and when we close, like closing filing day close, that's probably my favorite time because everybody's jockeying for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
even better than the last, because the last 2 months of campaign season, I don't sleep, life sucks, it's horrible, right? And you're slogging through it, and you're just like, can't we just get to when ballots get out and get this thing going? And then when ballots come out, you're like, oh shit, I'm so far behind. So I like this period the best because it's when all kind of the fun conversation happens and surprises happen. So more to come.
More to come. Great
What are you
episode,
gonna go
Brian.
do with your dog?
Thanks, Brian.
Okay.